Hi everyone, here is video number 3 on the side panel spraying. It's gone pretty well actually. This is the plastic primer, and in the description below I'll put a link to the code and the name of the manufacturer. Now, I've used lots of paint in the past, lots of different primers. This is definitely different. This is definitely for plastic. You can tell. So, having done the preparation in the previous video, I then gave the panels a wipe over with universal thinners just to clean any grease off, and then I wore latex gloves because fingerprints, you know, you've got oil on your fingers and it can affect the adhesion of the paint. So I wore latex gloves, and this is 3 coats of primer, the plastic primer, and it's come out really well. There are no runs or anything. I'll just turn it round. Now, there's the lug that the panel fits on to the frame. So it's a good, nice surface. Now, to the touch, it feels very, very slightly, not rough. It's not a gloss finish, it's obviously a primer. And I suspect that that is exactly as it should be. I did ask at the paint supplier and say, to them, or ask them, do you sand, you know, between coats? He said, no, you just give it 2-3 coats. And of course these were black, so it took a few more coats. We couldn't do it in 2. And he said, don't sand it, just leave it as it is, and that will give a good key for the base coat to go on, and then the top coat, and finally the decals and the lacquer. So, pretty pleased with it. I'll see if I can, well, no, I'm not bothered because I'm using one hand. I've done the edges underneath, and I've left them black inside. There's a bit of overspray inside, but that's, I don't think that really matters. You don't see them, do you? And what the guy in the paint shop also told me was, it's absolutely vital that that primer be completely dry. And he said, leave it, once the coats are on, I left it 15 minutes between coats, so it took just under an hour to spray them. And he said, leave it 24 hours at least. Somebody else in the shop said, the key to knowing that it's dried is if you basically use your nose and sniff near it. If you can smell paint, he said it's not fully dried or fully cured, whatever it does. And he said that if you then start putting base coat on and then top coat on, even if you do those correctly afterwards and then the lacquer, you've still got solvent trapped at the primer layer. And because it's on plastic particularly, it's got nowhere to go apart from through your paintwork and out through the lacquer, and he said, and it will spoil the job. So it's absolutely vital, he said, to make sure that it's completely dry, completely cured, or whatever process occurs. I think it's just losing solvent. But there it is. Now, I've got my wood burner going at the moment, just to keep the atmosphere in here dry. Spray painting in damp conditions, humid conditions, is not a good idea, especially with top coats, because you're going to get a bloom on it, and basically a kind of cloudy dullness. So I checked the humidity this morning on my iPhone, and it said 82%. Well, that's far too high to be spraying. So I was a bit naughty. I lit the stove and got the place in here very, very dry. And while I could get away with it, I sprayed him over there. But you see, motorbikes come first, don't they? That's the most important thing. Never mind the floor. Anyway, as it was, that's all right. Most of the paint went onto the panels, and any that didn't will dry and it'll just be dust on the floor, and we'll sweep it up before I get into trouble. So it must be dry. Don't be tempted to do it in humid conditions. I've done it in the past with cellulose paint, actually, rushing it. And you get this bloom on it, a little bit like the yeasty covering on black grapes. You know, it's sort of a bloom and it ruins the job completely. So here we are. They are sitting on some blocks of solid teak, and they're going to sit here on the worktop for at least 24 hours with that stove going before I even contemplate doing anything else. So there it is, progressing. I may live to regret this. Who knows? We'll find out soon. It might be a disaster. So anybody watching this, keep your fingers crossed for me. And in the meantime, ride safe, and I'll be posting another video later on. Bye for now.